At exactly 8:50 a.m. on the 13th of February, Siti Aiysah walks into Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia. A couple of moments later, Doan Huong promptly enters the same airport. They are here for a YouTube prank show. Kim Jong Un's brother, Nam, is standing towards one of the escalators, unaware of this prank that would soon be carried out on him. Huong and Siti locate their target and immediately start walking towards him. A couple of seconds later, Huong can be seen standing very close to Nam, covering his face with a cloth. Shortly afterward, Siti sprays a liquid over Nam's nose and mouth. Nam was initially confused after his encounter with the first woman, but alerted the airport officers after being sprayed. A few minutes go by and Kim Jong Nam realizes something's not right. He was disoriented and groggy. He explained to the airport officers nearby what had just happened. He needed immediate attention. Airport paramedics discovered that Nam had been poisoned and his situation was getting worse by the second. He needed a hospital quickly. Nam was rushed into an ambulance and 3 minutes later he was dead. The news took the world by storm. This was a meticulously planned attack. So who was responsible? Well, to answer that, let's start from the very beginning. Who exactly was Kim Jong Nam, and why was he murdered in broad daylight? Kim Jong Nam, also known as Jong Nam, was born in Pyongyang City, the capital of North Korea, on May 10, 1971. Former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il reportedly had 4 wives. Among them were Song Hae-rim, the mother of Kim Jong Nam, and Ko Yong-hui, the mother of Kim Jong-un. Initially, the affair between Jong-il and Song was kept a secret because his father disapproved of the relationship. This meant that Jong Nam would be kept out of school and sent to live with Song's older sister, who homeschooled him. On some days, he left to visit his grandma in Moscow, but according to North Korea Leadership Watch, most of his childhood was spent at international schools in Russia and Switzerland, which showed in his later years. Many reports say that Jong Nam had a personality similar to that of his father, and was described by his aunt as being hot-tempered and gifted in the arts, but did not wish to succeed his father and rule the country. Like Kim Jong-il, he was more interested in writing scripts and short films from a young age. His father even made a small movie set for him to practice with while growing up. By the age of 24, he started making clandestine visits to Japan. Some speculate these trips were motivated by a combination of personal interests and a sense of freedom he couldn't experience in North Korea. Others believed suspicious government operations. Either way, he loved taking these trips. But as we all know, North Korea isn't a country that is open to the idea of freedom in all senses. Even the children of high-ranking officials are not exempted from this strict policy, and that includes Jong Nam. So in 1998, Jong Nam was appointed to a senior position in the Ministry of Public Security, which meant he had to kill every idea of pursuing the arts and just focus on his duties for his country. Around the same time, he was also made head of the North Korean Computer Committee, a committee responsible for developing the country's IT industry. 2 years later, in January 2001, Kim Jong Nam accompanied his father Kim Jong-il on a visit to Shanghai. During this trip, they held talks with Chinese officials on how to develop the IT sector. Well, this trip to Shanghai was one of Jong Nam's last major appearances on the international stage before the bombshell event, the Tokyo incident. Despite the expectations and heavy burden placed on Kim Jong Nam as the son of the president, he just wanted to live a normal life. Maybe it was his upbringing in Russia and Switzerland that made him this way, but unlike most of the people in his country, Jong Nam just wanted to chill and have fun. Sometime in May 2001, 30-year-old Kim Jong Nam attempted to enter Japan with the intention of visiting Tokyo Disneyland. Here's the problem: Jong Nam was traveling under a false identity, using a forged Dominican passport. Also with him were 2 women and a child believed to be his wife, bodyguard, and son. All 3 were also using fake passports. A few days ago, the plan seemed simple enough. Enjoy a trip to the famous theme park, far from the watchful eyes of the North Korean regime, something I'm sure he didn't have much of growing up. However, things quickly went awry when the Japanese immigration officials at Narita International Airport noticed irregularities in their passports. Upon further inspection, they discovered that Jong Nam was not just any tourist, but the eldest son of Kim Jong Il, North Korea's supreme leader. When Jong Nam's true identity was revealed, it caused a diplomatic embarrassment. The incident made international headlines, exposing not only Jong Nam's attempt to enjoy the luxuries of the outside world, but also the deep flaws in North Korea's secretive regime. When Kim Jong-il received word of the incident, he was furious. Jong Nam's actions were seen as reckless and irresponsible, particularly at a time when he was being groomed as a potential successor. The use of a forged passport to visit a theme park was a serious lapse in judgment, reflecting poorly on his ability to lead a country like North Korea. Plus, it's just downright embarrassing that he'd lie about where he came from for a trip to Disneyland. In the wake of the Tokyo Disneyland incident, Jong Nam was swiftly removed from the line of succession. He was also exiled from North Korea and forced to live in Macau, a region of China known for its casinos and luxury lifestyle. In the following years, he traveled between various countries, including China, Malaysia, and Singapore, under the watchful eyes of his father's regime. By 2003, it was abundantly clear that the tides had shifted. The Korean People's Army initiated a propaganda campaign under the slogan, "The respected mother is the most faithful and loyal subject to the dear leader, comrade supreme commander." This campaign was interpreted as praise for Ko Yong-hui, the mother of Kim Jong-un and Kim Jong-chul, a sign that the regime was now grooming one of her sons to take over. While the Tokyo Disneyland incident is often cited as the catalyst for Kim Jong-nam's fall from grace, Jong Nam himself had a different perspective. You see, in an email to the editor of Tokyo Shimbun, Jong Nam claimed that his fall was due to advocacy for reform and market policies. Having been educated in Switzerland, he had been exposed to Western ideas and saw the potential benefits of opening North Korea to the global economy. However, these ideas were loathed by his father, who saw it as a betrayal of the regime's core principles. During his years in exile, Kim Jong Nam gained a reputation as an international playboy, indulging in gambling and drinking. He was also known to engage in some shady business deals. Unlike other members of the Kim family, Jong Nam was willing to speak to the media, which added to his notoriety as a unique figure among the Kims. Jong Nam's connection with China made him a mystery child. Public speculation was that he was being kept as a plan B by Beijing, a leader who could be installed if Kim Jong-un failed to maintain control. Well, this speculation led to a dark chapter in Jong Nam's life, and this was what started the beginning of his end. As Kim Jong-un began his descent within the North Korean hierarchy, his half-brother, Jong Nam's life took a dangerous turn. Once considered the heir apparent, Jong Nam was now living in exile, largely in Macau. Even though it would take something drastic for Jong Nam to become the supreme leader of North Korea, his being alive meant there was still a chance. Though small, but a chance nonetheless. If he were to be killed off, well, that chance would be gone forever. And in the words of the immortal Highlander, there can only be one. The first attempt. In 2006, while traveling to see his brother Kim Jong-chul in Munich, Jong Nam narrowly survived an assassination attempt at Budapest Ferihegyi International Airport. As the story goes, North Korean agents attempted to expose him to a poisonous gas. His death was intended to be subtle and undetectable. The agents situated at the airport waited for hours to no avail as Jong Nam was a no-show. No one knows why he didn't come to the airport that day, but the North Korean agents were later caught and arrested. According to South Korean reports, the Hungarian government lodged a formal protest with the North Korean embassy in Vienna, demanding that such incidents not be repeated. But this was a clear signal that Jong Nam was viewed as a threat by elements within the North Korean regime, most likely those loyal to Kim Jong-un. By 2007, it was reported that he'd been living incognito in Macau with his family for about 3 years. Kim Jong Nam didn't know how to make it clear enough that he couldn't care less about the leadership position. Heck, in 2009, Kim Jong Nam publicly stated that he had no interest in taking over leadership in North Korea after his father. Still, those words made little difference to the threats he faced. But by September 2010, the writing was on the wall for all to see. Kim Jong-un was officially named heir apparent, marking the end of any lingering hopes. Security agents placed on Kim Jong Nam report that he was spotted giving a brief interview to the Associated Press in Macau, after which he just kind of disappeared. He couldn't be found later that year, with reports claiming he'd traveled to an undisclosed country. The second attempt, 2011. Now, somehow he was found, and despite his press release saying he didn't want the position, congratulating his brother on being named heir apparent, and putting up all the signs he could about just wanting to be left alone, it all fell on deaf ears. Later that year, official reports have it that North Korean agents planned to stage a car accident in China or Macau, where Kim Jong Nam was living at the time. One of the North Korean agents, Kim Jong-soo, was captured and questioned, and he revealed that the plot involved ramming a heavy vehicle into Kim Jong Nam's car, making his death look like a traffic accident. But he didn't show up at the airport and the plan was foiled. Whether it was coincidence or he got tipped off, we can't say. December 17th, 2011. The Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il passed away and
되어있을 것이며
Jong Nam flew to Pyongyang to pay his respects and returned to Macau shortly afterward. For a man with so many looming threats, you might be left puzzled with what he did next. Did he return to China and continue enjoying life in hiding? No. Make way to Singapore and enjoy time with his family? No. Public interviews with Japanese journalist Gomi Yoji? Yes. The journalist then published a book in which Jong Nam expressed his belief that Kim Jong-un's leadership would ultimately fail due to his inexperience and youth. He also said that without reforms, North Korea would collapse, leading to the downfall of the regime. Statements that no doubt double the threat against him. Months later, South Korean intelligence revealed that Kim Jong-un had issued a standing order: terminate any defectors on sight. By 2012, Kim Jong-un was now firmly in control of North Korea and viewed his older brother as a lingering threat. There were rumors here and there about another attempt that year. Apparently, Jong Nam even sent a letter to his half-brother. Please withdraw the order to punish me and my family. We have nowhere to hide. The only way to escape is to choose suicide. The final attempt. 1 week before his death, Kim Jong Nam arrived at Kuala Lumpur Airport in Malaysia. He was using a diplomatic passport with the name Kim Chol. On his person was a small bag carrying $100,000. Roughly a week before he arrived, 4 North Korean agents were seen arriving at the airport, all on different days. The 4 North Korean agents recruited one Ms. Doan Huong and Siti Aiysah from entertainment establishments. Siti worked as a spa masseuse while Doan Huong worked as an entertainment outlet employee. Now, let's take a moment to talk about these ladies. These ladies were civilians, normal people doing their best to get by. Huong grew up in a small farming village in Vietnam, about 3 hours south of Hanoi, and studied pharmacy at a community college, while Siti grew up in a farming village east of Jakarta. 25-year-old Siti Aiysah is an escort working in Malaysia and she does this job to raise money to provide for her parents back in Indonesia. One day, she meets a producer who persuades her to work for him as an actor on his TV show. She agrees because of the compensation, $100 per show. Who wouldn't take such an opportunity? A typical show involved going to a public park or mall while they filmed Siti spraying a random person with water or oil. The pranks were light-hearted, nothing too serious. Meanwhile, another woman named Doan Huong was also recruited by the producer and assigned the same tasks as Siti. And they do this for a while, and each time they get paid and the person being pranked is pointed to the camera like, hey, you've been pranked. Nothing serious. So the ladies are living well from this money, as well as have come to trust these producers. One morning in February, the producer calls both women to meet at the airport. According to the women, this was just another prank to them. Just do the same thing they've been doing to the person the producer will point to, and they agreed. After all, that's what they've been doing so far. This image of Siti Aiysah was captured on camera moments before the attack. February 13th, 8:57 a.m. On the morning of February 13th, 8:57 a.m., Kim Jong Nam went to the airport to catch his flight home. Security footage shows him entering the departure hall at Terminal 2, carrying a shoulder bag, checking the departure board, and making a beeline toward the check-in counter for AirAsia. Strangely, he's not with any guards. 8:58 a.m., a young lady is seen walking up to meet Jong Nam. This is Siti Aiysah, and she's off camera. She makes her way to him, trying to act as normal as possible. By 9 a.m., she sprays a liquid on his face and promptly walks away. Jong Nam is left puzzled by this. Perhaps just a strange individual. The liquid doesn't affect him, so he brushes it off. Moments later, another lady does something strange. She smothers his face with a cloth before dawdling away. After his encounter with the women, Jong Nam alerted the airport security officers, waving his hands towards his face repeatedly as he told them of the attack. They immediately examined him at the clinic. This was the last photo taken that day. His condition was getting worse, and he had to be rushed to hospital. Let's take a breather here. We know for a fact Jong Nam thought his life was in danger, so why would he move without a bodyguard? Well, he'd written to his brother, so perhaps he assumed everything was fine? He couldn't have been more wrong. Secondly, according to paramedics at the scene, Jong Nam actually had the antidote to the poison used on him. So why didn't he use it? If I had to guess, it'd be the sudden nature of the attack. It was swift and precise. Plus, I don't think he even knew he was poisoned. Many thoughts could have been racing in his head, but not enough time to properly assess all the equations. On his way to the hospital, he was given 1 milligram of the antidote, atropine, and another milligram of adrenaline, but it was a little too late at that point. A Malaysian Chinese newspaper reported his last words were, quote, "It's very painful, very painful. I was sprayed liquid," end quote. A full-blown investigation was carried out, and the police later reported that the 4 North Korean suspects believed to have orchestrated the attack with these men: Ri Ji-hong, 33, Hong Song-hak, 34, Oh Jong-gil, 55, Ri Jae-nam, 57. On the day of the attack, eyewitness reports and camera footage reveal that these unidentified North Korean agents passed through immigration, had their passports stamped, and left the country before anyone realized what had happened. The news was shocking, to say the least. Brother of North Korea's leader had just been murdered on international soil. The media was all over the scene in a heartbeat, trying to cover the story. Headlines ran amok. When the airport workers were asked what happened, they couldn't divulge any information. They'd been ordered not to discuss the case. With the very public murder of Kim Jong Nam, investigation officers were called to look into the matter and bring the killers to justice. 2 days later, on February 15th, Malaysian police arrested 28-year-old Vietnamese woman Doan Huong at Kuala Lumpur Airport. CCTV footage revealed she was one of the women connected to the attack. The following day, 25-year-old Siti Aiysah was also arrested and identified as the second culprit. Siti's boyfriend, Muhammad, was also brought in to assist in the investigation. Official reports later state that the women were tricked into participating in a prank of spraying liquids on passers-by. And CCTV footage shows they had practiced the same attack at 3 malls before now, unknowingly thinking it was a prank. Police Chief Mr. Khalid concluded that the women were trained and knew exactly what they were doing. Another camera angle showed that Huong and Aiysah rushed to separate restrooms after carrying out the attack to wash off the chemical. According to investigation officers, the women's swift action to clean the chemicals suggests they were familiar with the substances and knew how to handle them. If their theories were right, these women were referred to as lizard tails, expendable assets to be used in covert operations. Around 9:30 a.m., CCTV saw Huong leave the airport by taxi, almost like she was in a hurry to flee the scene. After leaving the airport, Aiysah experienced nausea and vomited in the taxi, indicating that she was feeling unwell. We can assume that this was due to the chemicals she had come into contact with. All heads were fully tilted towards the North Korean government as the major reason for Jong Nam's death. When South Korean and Malaysian intelligence asked for North Korea's response on the matter, they denied any involvement, stating the claim that VX nerve agent was used to kill one of its citizens was absurd and lacked scientific basis. These allegations made by the United States and South Korea are to tarnish our country's image, quote unquote. So Malaysian officials decided to conduct an autopsy report. Pathologist Muhammad Shah testified that Jong Nam's lungs, brain, liver, and spleen were severely affected by the poison. On February 24th, Malaysia's police chief announced that a toxicology report had found traces of the nerve agent VX on Jong Nam's face. Alright, so Jong Nam was poisoned at the airport, but how did this dangerous chemical make it into the airport in the first place? Quite simple, actually. The nerve agent VX can be applied as a 2-step process. This would also explain why they weren't affected by the compound. VX becomes deadly when the compounds are being combined. The first step was the liquid spray and the second was the cloth over Nam's face. The killing of Kim Jong Nam on foreign soil caused a major diplomatic crisis between North Korea and Malaysia. First, Malaysia began with the expulsion of the North Korean ambassador and the refusal to release Jong Nam's body. Then, North Korea responded in kind by holding all Malaysian citizens hostage in North Korea. Eventually, all North Korean detainees were questioned and deported. Malaysian residents were also released by the North Korean government. After several back-and-forth meetings, Siti was eventually freed and Huong was allowed to plead guilty to a lesser charge. Was cold hard evidence just thrown out the window? Well, yes. The Malaysian government apparently wanted to be done with the trial because it was, in their words, inconvenient. Dr. Sung Wook, a professor at a Korean university, said, "What is now clear is that the Malaysian government considered the recovery of the relationship between Pyongyang and Kuala Lumpur to be more important than the justice for the assassination of Kim Jong Nam," quote unquote. We've collected a bulk of all the evidence available in this story. We now know who was responsible for his killing, Siti and Huong, as well as hints as to who orchestrated the killing. So, why was Kim Jong Nam killed? Well, I have a couple of theories. Jong Nam's early life was marked by undisclosed travels to different countries. During some of these travels, he was said to be interacting with CIA operatives. Now, this would be a serious breach of trust, which would make him a significant threat to Kim Jong-un. A report from the Wall Street Journal in 2019 corroborated this statement. If Jong Nam was indeed sharing information with the CIA, it would have been seen as a major betrayal by the North Korean leadership. My second theory would be preventing defection. Intelligence sources had previously stated that Kim Jong-un was removing defectors, ordering the death of multiple North Korean defectors, and preventing leakage of insider knowledge of the regime. Among such defectors was Kim Jong Nam, who probably had the most inside information. Remember, he was made head of security for the regime at one point in his career, and later head of the technology sector. This would have made him the most valuable asset to foreign agencies. Killing Kim Jong Nam would also serve as a warning to other defectors. Chances are, if a rogue Korean agent saw Jong Nam being killed in broad daylight, he would immediately go into hiding. For much of his life after the exile, Kim Jong Nam was in hiding, living in Macau under Beijing's protection. But this leads to my next theory. China might have seen him as a potential alternative to Kim Jong-un, particularly if Jong-un lost control of the regime. Unlike Jong Nam, Jong-un was known for aggressive policies, like the development of nuclear and chemical weapons, whereas Nam had more moderate views. Anyway, in order to thwart Chinese interference in North Korean leadership, Kim Jong-un likely ordered the assassination that February. To date, North Korean officials still insist his death was caused by a heart attack, but I believe we can all agree that it wasn't.